everybody.
And
My
on
name's
the
Robert,
advertiser
and
level, I think
I'm with the
you're on
Ethereum network.
more or less.
Yeah, let's talk about privacy. Probably been quite a few talks about that, and let me give you quite a broad view on how to tackle
Right. So
this big question.
let's.
Let's start off with the hand.
I will try and find the other person, and I'll put it back.
Do we know
Okay, that's fine. Let me find it.
who knows that I'm here? Well, obviously you do. Who knows that you're here? Who knows that together we're here? Is it the guys who make this phone and your phones? Is it the guys who provide us with the internet, our internet providers? Is it some internet services like Facebook? Do they know that we're here at the moment? Google, Facebook, other services, right? Is it government? My government? Your government? Which governments? How many governments? How many people inside those companies and governments? Who is it that knows that we're here? What else do they know about us? Do they know my name, your name? Do they know your social network, your friends, your family, your activities, your groups that you attend to? What else do they know about you, about me, about us? And they do with this. So why? Why them? Why not you? Why not vice versa? What do you know about those people? Very little. So if we go on like this, we'll end up with this, where we don't even see the bars, but we're inside the bars, most of the time willingly. But I want to argue that empowerment is under construction. World of empowerment, as I've been calling it for the last 10 years, is under construction. It's been ramping up over the last decade, and yeah, let's explore how. I see three steps towards this world of empowerment. First, we'll need to see through the box, because the box acts as a trap for us, as a mental trap, as an emotional trap, uh, trapping us in endless debates and endless discussions. Second, we'll talk about decentralization and open source. What role does it play in getting towards this world? And finally, the importance of the protocols. What role do they play in getting us there? Let's start with the box. We are rarely thinking how much interconnected are we in today's world, and how much that affects our everything in our life. In 2015, a writer, a journalist, asked two hackers to basically hack into his car while he was driving, and he asked, "Well, try to do something with my car and see what we end up with." Well, first they started off with the music. They turned on really loud music. Then they turned on the fan. Then they turned on the water on the windshield, and he was not able to manipulate all these things, so he was unable to see where he's going and hear and fan, and finally they killed the stop, the brakes. So well, it was done in a safe environment of a parking lot, but as a result, of course, you can see they stop. So we are interconnected. And why does this happen? This happens because of one elemental thing. Somebody can access into your personal field, into your private field of access and of knowledge about you, and they can manipulate that into something else, or at least they can read that information. Privacy goes a little bit beyond Facebook. Well, recently, over the last couple of months, we've heard about Cambridge Analytica and Facebook and the tens of millions of people data being sold or stolen. I don't know how you refer to this. And well, I'm not sure how about you, but I don't believe that public shaming of billionaires in front of the Senate is going to help solve this problem, because fundamentally this company and many other companies are standing on one sole principle. They accumulate information about us. They accumulate this incredible superpower to influence us because they know my personality, they know what I like, what I dislike, what I do in life, and they sell that information. That's the pillar on top of which they stand. So shaming will not help. Look at the faces of these politicians sitting behind Mark. They're clueless. They're clueless. They don't know how to solve this problem. So it's not a political problem. It's a technological problem to solve. Uh, but what's the source of the problem? Where is the source of the problem? We have this incredibly, I would say, ridiculous debate on net neutrality, and I'll explain myself why I'm saying ridiculous. And on the left hand side, so we have two, like a fence in the middle, and on the left hand side we have this woman who says it's a freedom of speech. So for her, network neutrality means freedom of speech. If you take away my network neutrality, you're taking away my freedom of speech. But she's the elector. She's not in power. Uh, she stands in the street trying to rally everybody uh, with this message. And on the other side of the fence, uh, the initiated ones, general from Mr. Trump, FCC chairman, says net neutrality is a mistake. So it's kind of getting me thinking every time. Freedom of speech is a mistake. What do we get? Of course, Mr. Ajit, he has to play with lots of forces on his hands. He has politicians, he has corporations, he has electors, he has foreign policy, domestic policy. So it's not that simple as it might be for this lady. Um, and his outcome is a mistake. So we're presented with this fenced structure, and this structure actually gets us into the box. We're either offered choose the right or choose the left. Now, what if I don't want to choose neither right nor left? What do I have? I have a box. And if we really want to figure out the bottom of this, we need to dig a little bit deeper. So let's take our Sherlock's lens and see a bit deeper. What do we have here? Let's look for the stakeholders, as they say. Let's follow the money. When you connect to the internet, you are sending various signals. So first of all, let's say internet providers, they capture your signals, and in certain countries, it's already legal, like US. It's already legal to capture all this data, to catalog, to prepare it for the customer, and to sell. And that's a very valuable information for certain buyers of that information, whoever they are. Then we have internet services, which also rely on the same principle. They capture data about me, about my social network, about my activities, about my colleagues, about my friends, and they capitalize on it by selling this data. And then we have governments who, again, they want to control what's happening inside the government, outside, what its citizens are doing. They also need our data. They need to understand what we're doing so that they could have some sense of control over it all. So all of them are unified by one single principle. They are trying to capture our data, and then their success will be based on how much and how valuable data they have over each one of us, right? So how to unlock the box? We're inside this box. We're fighting. And what question are we asking right now? we're asking, okay, so we have all of these entities and they have this much power over me. How much of that are we letting them use? Are we just letting them filter some content? Are we letting them influence us by saying, oh, I know you like this, so you probably would like to buy that or me that or do that? Or are we not just looking at the commercial side, but also allowing them to influence me by informing me about the better presidents? Or are we just allowing them to do everything they want to do with this superpower that they have over me? So right now, with net neutrality, we're being asked this question: are we allowing this or that? And then we have a fence, and you basically choose a seat. So to get outside of this box, uh, we might be asking a little bit different question. Instead of asking how far are we letting them take this superpower, why not ask who should have this superpower? Should you have the superpower of your personal data, of your personality, accessible only to you and to those who you wish to have this access? Or should this power be with the third parties, any third parties who are capable of accessing this data? And if the answer is it's with you, with me, each one of us should have this data, well, the next obvious question is how to get there. So if you answered yes to the question of who, and the answer is you, this talk will continue based on this logic. If not, then not. We can have a different discussion. So let's talk about the role of decentralization and open source in all of this. In 2009, Pandora's box opened. But before 2009, decades and decades and probably hundreds of years, people have been trying to fight the fight of empowering the individual. But in 2009, very big change happened, and Bitcoin released its paper. Well, Satoshi released their paper on Bitcoin, and we're still trying to understand what we got that day. But few things are certain. Well, one thing is decentralization. Decentralized organizations can be successful, as Bitcoin is a decentralized organization. And those organizations can rely not on accumulating information about you and selling that information, but on providing a valuable service, not based on the accumulated information about us. Also, those organizations can be open source. Um, and those organizations could be without a center, so decentralized, right? We're learning, we're experimenting. There's a huge infrastructure. Today we're here because of that, and yeah, that's one way to go. So let's imagine this empowering future with a key difference. Empowering future, me at least, is one where we have a very rich future, rich with content of your making, of my making, of everybody's around here making, and we share this content, exchange this content. It could be work, it could be entertainment, it could be anything, it could be augmented, it could be on your any device, um, rich with possibilities, right? The key difference, and we're getting there no matter what. The key difference is imagine a future where um, you have a device that's able to read your mind, and you're able to send your emotion, for example, to somebody as a YouTube video, and somebody could consume that emotion of you eating an orange, for example, and what you sense, what you feel during that process. Imagine if something could capture and send that information, and you would communicate with somebody. This technology would enable to read mind on a very deep level. Imagine if this type of information got into the hands of future governments and Facebooks and Googles and so on, what kind of power they would have over us. So the key difference here is your information belonging to you or belonging to some third parties? Um, and again, I want to argue that it is possible, and it is under creation, an ecosystem where this central piece belongs to you. So, going forward, open source and decentralization is the way to go if we want to truly have that. Open source, I didn't touch on that much, but basically, with open source, you can be completely sure that the company, the organization which is building this interface into all what you want to access, doesn't secretly send bits and pieces of your information back into its secret servers to analyze and to abuse. And I want to touch finally on the importance of the protocols. Internet was not created in the 90s. Was way before, for example, guys like Vint. They worked for the government, for the universities, for the military, and they created protocols, initial protocols, which were designed to create ARPANET back then, internet as an open, decentralized peer-to-peer system. Back then, internet was a peer-to-peer system because two universities would talk to each other and they would not have a third party in the middle. Right now, we have you, me, and some monopoly third party in the middle doing its thing. So internet evolved. They back then in the 60s and 70s when they created TCP/IP protocol and this and many others, they created in essence the foundational layers, the root system of the internet today. And they had a very different set of problems to solve. For example, back then it was really difficult to tell how to send information reliably on an unreliable network. Um, well, they succeeded because we send lots of data today, but they didn't solve social problems like we have today with huge, enormous corporations having this enormous power over us. So today, we still need protocols. Those protocols which were created in the 60s and 70s still run the internet today. But going forward, if we want to create this empowering atmosphere, the empowering alternative, we need to rethink the foundational layer of the internet. So if we want to create an internet where your personal field is being held by your own hands, nobody else's, but by your own hands, the foundational layers of the internet and of all the services that are supplying you with the content and with interactions with the surrounding world need to account for that. And this is exactly being done at the moment. Let's take an example. If your app, no matter what app is that, needs a storage device, it could use storage, but then you and only you have access. You and only you have private keys to unlock this information stored in the decentralized network. Storage organization as an organization doesn't have access to your data. And Golem, they bring you enormous amount of computing power, but then again, only you can access that, and only you know what's being done with this computing power. If you need to transact value, you would use Bitcoin, but then again, Bitcoin doesn't own information about you. Similar with Ether and other smart token, smart contracting systems. So the future app, let's imagine a Facebook, for example. In a Facebook, you have a social network, a list of friends, and their stories presented in a wall, stream of stories with pictures and comments and everything else. Imagine if this data belonged to you with a private key accessible only to you, and algorithms can construct the data in a format that you like. And Facebook is just an interface into this data. If you don't like Facebook interface, well, you can use Headbook interface, Airbook, Nosebook, iBook, I don't know, any book. They might appear different. They might appear in a red format. They might appear with a nose attached to each comment or something else, right? So in this world, the app doesn't own the data. It's just giving you access to this raw material, which is outside, but you control the access, um, and then you get your power back without being influenced by those who own this data about you. And to create this, we need different protocols. Well, this is a piece about Mysterium. I work for Mysterium. I got hired by privacy to increase privacy in the world, and what we're building in essence, we're building a communication layer protection. In this world of peer-to-peer apps, peer-to-peer protocols, you're going to have lots of communication between, let's say we have a video chat with each other on my mobile phone and on your mobile phone, and there's lots of data flowing through the network. If this data could be breached at some point, then some third party would still get the data about us and would still abuse it at some point. There's just too much of an incentive not to do this. So what we're building a protective layer against all of the communication, and we're enabling, well, the end goal is to enable any developer to integrate that protective layer or the communication layer into their app with a few API calls. At the moment, we're starting with a decentralized VPN where anybody can be a node and can serve as a VPN node, providing the VPN service, and we as an organization have zero knowledge what's happening on the network. So nodes make money, people use VPN, and we as an organization have zero knowledge what's happening on the network. So those types of protocols, it's really hard for an app to create all the list of technologies that are needed, especially if this is a decentralized decentralized app. That's why we need protocols powering those apps, and you could mash them up. You could use this and that. You could use Ethereum for this, storage for that, Golem for that, Mysterium for protecting communication. And on top of it, you build your own logic into the app. So that's it. That's what I wanted to share. We are heading towards the world of empowerment. I'm 100% sure. What we need as a society, what would help, is if we could see through the illusion, through the box. The box is that we're locked in this debate whether companies should use this much of the power that they have or should use less of the power. That's irrelevant. Whenever they have power, you cannot take away power from that which has power. We should not expect them not to use this power. They will use it. They will find ways to use it. Cambridge Analytica just yesterday, I think, got bankrupted. I'm sure there are hundreds of Cambridge Analyticas waiting list in long list to fill the space. So we should not expect that to happen. Instead, we should build an alternative. And to build an alternative, so far, I haven't found anything better but decentralized and open source network system projects. And you cannot build it yourself. You cannot build alone. You have to cooperate. This is how it works. So protocols working with apps or working with the whole ecosystem. That is my message, and we'll soon see a much more empowered world. Thank you. And if you're into privacy, if you're developing, if you want into those things, please talk to us. We're hiring, by the way.
Anyone have any questions? Yeah, cool, fire away.
Well, in a sense, we're building. You could be a node, and I don't know. We as an organization don't know who is you. We would never know. You're just some person somewhere building a node and providing the service. And if this guy he needs a VPN, and through the discovery mechanism, which is again open source and out there, he finds your node and you connect to, and he uses your node. That's it. We don't know nothing about what happened there. It's open source on both ends. You might know what he did. He definitely knows what he did, but we don't. So it's a network which we build technology and letting it go by itself. Yeah, and then we'll build technology. We'll build like tools, APIs for developers to use this technology into their apps creations. Yeah. Do you represent one? Do you represent one? If you would, I would love to talk. Uh, yes and no. Yes, yes. So yes and no. In a sense, we are, and in a sense, we're not. We're building at a technological level, like layer, like TCP/IP. It's a protocol through which you can connect and through which you can do certain things. Well, same here. It's a protocol. We don't know whether somebody is going to use it or not. We're not going to build applications ourselves, so it's not like we're building Tor. Somebody might, but we're not building Tor on top of this. To answer your question, it is. Yes. The question was about GDPR and how do we buy knowledge about this. Well, GDPR is about personal information. Like if I know your name, your IP, I am obliged to certain rules, but we don't. We, as an organization, are building the protocol and letting it out. Smart contract will allow you to find the node and, as a customer, and the customer, to connect. None of the names are visible. We, as an organization, have zero knowledge about the IPs, about the node IPs, about all of that. So we don't have access to that information.
Thank you very much. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
thank you
Very
very much.
topical.